CIA declassified documents, Operation Mockingbird. It's absolutely real. We have the documentation. .gov sites you can go to and confirm. Operation Mockingbird began with wiretaps and just using a few journalists to have code words inside articles so that they could communicate covertly and send information to each other, I'm assuming internationally, and then soon expanded to Hollywood, movies, and then basically control of the entire media structure that we see today. So if you listen close, you're gonna hear just a clip of Hollywood explaining it themselves to you, and then I'll show you a quick example of how you can see it in today's media, and then another quick example in today's media that's very blatant that you may have even seen before.
There's a crisis in the White House.
What's the crisis?
And the president's top advisors have been called together.
Oh, jeez.
The sexual misconduct occurred inside the Oval Office. With the election only days away, how much will this scandal affect the outcome?
Now, Washington's top spin doctor
We can distract the press for 11 days till the election. I think we got a chance.
has an idea,
We can't afford a war.
We're gonna have the appearance of a war.
but he can't pull it off without Hollywood's top producer.
Do I know you?
We have some mutual friends in Washington.
Why come to me?
We want you to produce.
You want me to produce your war?
Not a war, it's a pageant. We need a theme, a song, some visuals. We need, it's a pageant.
New Line Cinema presents
How close are you to this?
What do you want the kid to say?
all the spectacle,
I know we're all concerned for the president.
I know we're all concerned for the president.
I know that we are all concerned for the president.
He didn't sell the line.
all the drama,
The president's going to go to war with Albania in about 30 minutes.
Albania's hard to run.
These are chips.
We need it for the armed position on the strain. It'll be a kitten. We'll punch it in later, right?
and all the effects of real war.
Okay, put the village behind her.
Give me some sound of screaming.
Without the casualties.
America has seldom witnessed a more poignant picture of
They used the same process with the last Schwarzenegger movie. You're the man.
Goes national, I get to put it on my resume.
Actually, no.
What could they do to me?
Take him home to your house and kill you.
Academy Award winner Dustin Hoffman.
This is politics at its finest.
Academy Award winner Robert De Niro.
How would you like an ambassadorship? That's my payoff. Hell, I just do it for a story to tell. Oh, no, you couldn't tell anybody. Listen, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, you couldn't tell.
No, it's just it's a pageant.
It's a pageant. That's what it is.
Wag the dog.
You're telling me that there is a movie company in Hollywood right now that is funded by the CIA?
Yes, sir. It's interesting that Hollywood and the clandestine services are both spend most of their time convincing people that something that's not true is in fact true. And philanthropic causes or political causes, which people may or may not think are good. Mostly, I think it's, self-serving and kind of designed to be that way.
Watch any big-budget war movie or take in a spy thriller, and you could walk away not knowing just how much your movie experience was shaped by the Pentagon or CIA. However, a trove of official documents obtained under US Freedom of Information laws and published this year detail the dealings between filmmakers and intelligence officials at Langley, Virginia, the CIA headquarters.
Probably the best known are Zero Dark 30 and Argo, but they've also assisted the television show Homeland.
How do we deal with homegrown violent jihadists?
Does it matter who owns your local TV station? While polls show Americans are increasingly worried about so-called fake news, they also show that many trust their local news more than other sources.
Most of us think of local news as just that, local. Stations run local stories produced and reported by local people. But if recently you tuned in to, say, WVTV, which is Sinclair's station in Milwaukee, you saw this.
Sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
This weekend, the online site Deadspin created this compilation of dozens of Sinclair's local newscasters recording an identical promo accusing the national media of spreading fake news.
And an agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 Tell ABC News there's been a strong reaction to the raid on extremist and QAnon-related forums.
Sources say there's been a strong reaction to the raid on extremist and QAnon-related forums.
Sources also telling ABC News there's been a strong reaction from some extreme groups online, including QAnon and other groups.
There's been a strong reaction to the raid on extremist and QAnon-related forums,
including those that were active before January 6th.
Including those that were active prior to January 6th.
Including those that were active prior to January 6th.
Involved in the January 6th insurrections,
including those that were active prior to the January 6th riot.
Some have been calling for violence and even a civil war.
Some of them include calls for violence and even a civil war.
Some of them include calls for violence in online forums and even civil war.
A handful of corporate empires own and control the vast majority of everything you read, hear, and watch. From the biggest movie studios, television and radio networks, newspapers and magazines, to the vast universe of internet news and entertainment sites.
It's crazy. I know it's hard to comprehend. How did we even get here? Where do we even start? Let's begin here. 1939, World War II, the Nazis, bad things happened, mass murder, cleansing of genetics, insane technological leaps, rumors of alien technology, rumors Hitler never died, rumors that it never really ended. Another thing everyone knows, 1945, World War II ends, and then the United States signs with the United Nations. Not a good thing, not getting into that here. Also, 1945 is when the United States agrees to bring over 1,600 high-profile Nazis and place them in high-profile positions throughout the United States government. And that was called Operation Paperclip. You can see here, again, more than 1,600 Nazis, put them in places like Kurt H. Dubas became a NASA director, and here he is sitting between the United States President John F. Kennedy and U.S. President Lyndon B. Johnson in 1962. And if you look here, even Wikipedia tells you that he was a part of the Schützenstaffel, and that's under Adolf Hitler, a paramilitary organization under Hitler, working for NASA. No war crime.
Let me just say something. I grew up in Dallas, Texas with my family doing things like helping take in East German defectors, okay? Whenever I go to a family reunion, half the people in the room are former retired CIA. What? And do you know what they tell me? They tell me I'm dead on, 100% absolutely right.
There you go. So just remember, there was over 1,600 Nazis that came over. That's just one. In 1947, the CIA was then founded, and a lot of people think that it was founded by these Nazis, people that came over here, and they think that it's always been a foreign agency within the United States working against us. The reason why they implemented Operation Paperclip is because they wanted that valuable technology and information from these scientists, especially including brainwashing techniques, which led to sexual-based mind control. In 1947, Alfred Kinsey founded the Institute for Sexual Research, okay? This is basically the pre-MK Ultra, which you'll hear about in a minute. He wrote the book Sexual Behavior in the Human Male, 1948, and Sexual Behavior in the Human Female in 1953, which is basically when he graduated. He was doing experiments on children using pedophiles. This is absolutely true, not an over-exaggeration. Buy his books, read them. The graphs will show.
Dr. Alfred Kinsey, his book, Sexual Behavior in the Human Male, 1948. He was the father of the sexual revolution, and therefore the father of everything that has come from that. And certainly one of the key things was pornography.
What people to this day are not aware of were the methods he used to collect his data.
And I looked at the graphs that he provided, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34 tables, and I said, wait a minute, that's a 2-month-old baby. How does he know a 2-month-old baby did or did not have an orgasm? And then table 34, a 4-year-old child, 26 orgasms in 24 hours? That's an around-the-clock experiment.
Wow, that's torture.
That's torture, you bet. He also actually employed bona fide pedophiles to do what they did to children for his so-called data. Read Kinsey and believed him was a guy named Hugh Hefner. Okay, yeah, so he's in college.
So Hefner was an advocate for
Kinsey's. He reads Kinsey and he says, I will be, and I'm quoting him, Kinsey's pamphleteer. America was educated by a pedophile whose work was labeled as science.
It's disgusting. Believe it or not, that's the basis of our sexual education today, absolutely. Also, Hef, the founder of Playboy magazine, Alfred Kinsey was his idol. Look it up. Having knowledge from the sick Nazi experiments over in Germany, Project MK Ultra was formed in 1953, first starting with LSD and drug-based mind control experiments.
This is the story of a 30-year search by U.S. intelligence agencies to perfect mind control. Some of those engaged in that search have agreed to talk about it for the first time. One said, "I think every last one of us felt sorry to attempt this kind of thing. We knew we were crossing the line." The search would be endless. From brothels, an agent says, we learned a lot about human nature in the bedroom, to the mystical rites of a magical mushroom ceremony performed by an Indian shaman, to a Spanish bull ring. The bull has had electrodes implanted in the brain and is controlled by a scientist. There would be victims. One intelligence agency tried to peel this man's mind back to reveal its deepest secrets. This man worked on some of these programs. He would write of his work, "It was fun, fun, fun."
ABC News Close-Up, Mission Mind Control.
We are not professing to tell you the complete story of these activities. We are professing to tell you the complete story that we know. Right. But these records that we've uncovered don't tell the story. They tell pieces of it.
They experimented with mescaline, scopolamine, and marijuana on unwitting victims. As this 1952 CIA memo says, the aim is controlling an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will, and even against such fundamental laws of nature as self-preservation. The discovery was lysergic acid diethylamide, LSD.
Then to sexual-based mind control experiments, where they obviously hired Alfred Kinsey to do more research under the books. They were admittedly testing on civilians. You need to watch the movie called Trance. Go to rumble.com and look that up. And it also has to do with Disney's sick cartoon.
Why would you put a picture of a topless woman in a child's film? Before I give you more examples of symbolism within Disney movies, take a look at these recognized pedophile symbols. Elena of Avalor, Madagascar, Flight of the Navigator, Moana. It's a Small World ride. There are also many other examples of indecent imagery with a sexual nature being used within Disney films, as well as occult and Nazi symbolism. Little girls have idolized Disney's princesses since the films began, and we were none the wiser of the background information on some of the characters.
Basically, it was a sick combination of subliminal programming, people put in trance through sexual trauma, more code words, more ways to hide messages, but also they figured out that there's also ways that they can control you and program you, and this expanded to the household, and that's where Disney came in. There's molestation going on in 1/3 of the households, 1/3 of the population in the United States has been molested, and at the same time they were watching Disney, which is the MK Ultra programming at wide spectrum. I know that's crazy, but stick with me here. 1953, Playboy was founded as an extension of this for multiple reasons. One, it was a honeypot. A honeypot is when the CIA took over a whorehouse or a brothel and they used the women there to trick politicians and other high-profile people into giving them information. Then the CIA created Playboy, gave Hef the keys to the castle. He got to enjoy the ride, but then he had to go down with the ship. And known fact, Hef had cameras all throughout his house. There was devious acts going on, underage sex, and it was all recorded. That's the honeypot. They got him. Everyone was blackmailed. Playboy was Epstein 1.0. Epstein is Playboy 2.0. Epstein was that on steroids, even more high class, even more secretive. Everybody that did any act, it was all recorded. There are data places where this is stored, and it was almost leaked a few times, or it was teased that it was going to be leaked. That's the Anthony Weiner laptop, etc., that you hear about on the news, or maybe you didn't.
One of the things, if I were the president, I'd do is demand the Anthony Weiner laptop and get it to the most trusted person in the military to take apart everything on it and then start using it. There's a lot that can be prosecuted, I have no doubt, on that laptop. In fact, I heard that the New York police officers who saw some of it, even though they're hardened investigators, literally had to go throw up. It's bad.
Playboy had a huge effect on fashion, and now everybody is dressed in all these skimpy things. It's normalized and we're not going backwards. Those are negative effects from the CIA, from Playboy. 1955, the first Disneyland was formed in California, and I guarantee this is absolutely where they were doing controlled MKUltra experiment. And it's admitted that there's tunnels underneath the Disneyland, and there probably has been since day one. Many stories of people being brought under Disneyland when they were a kid. You can look it up. If you want to see more about that, check out Just the Tip 2, but make sure you watch 1 and 3. They're long, but it's worth it. What does any of that have anything to do with Operation Mockingbird? Well, Operation Mockingbird combined MKUltra, and as it got older, it evolved into an important extension of MKUltra and the CIA's control over the American public and society.
There are other functions, however, some of them more legitimate than others. One is to run secret wars. Another thing is to disseminate propaganda to influence people's minds. And this is a major function of the CIA. And unfortunately, of course, it overlaps into the gathering of information. You have contact with a journalist, you will give him true stories, you'll get information from him, you'll also give him false stories. You also work on their human vulnerabilities to recruit them in a classic sense, to make them your agent so that you can control what they do, so you don't have to set them up sort of, you know, by putting one over on them. So you can say, here, plant this one next Tuesday.
Can you do this with responsible reporters?
Yes, the Church Committee brought it out in 1975, and then Woodward and Bernstein put an article in Rolling Stone a couple of years later. 400 journalists cooperating with the CIA
posted this illustration they said was me as a child being abused in that pool. The CIA allegedly trained me as a super secret CIA agent infiltrating the media as part of a 1960s era CIA program allegedly called Operation Mockingbird. As part of a 1960s era CIA program allegedly called Operation Mockingbird. The confirmation? According to Q supporters, the necklace my mom wore in that old photo looked like it could be from Guatemala. The CIA had supported a coup in Guatemala in 1954. I was also called a pedophile. Phony flight logs, purported to be from convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's airplane, appeared online. My name and dozens of other well-known people.
Did you at the time believe that high-level Democrats and celebrities were worshiping Satan, drinking the blood of children?
Keeping them honest tonight, potentially hundreds of military employees and contractors who may have bought child pornography online but haven't been prosecuted or even in some cases investigated. That's right, you heard me, child pornography. As many as 1,700 names, according to a U.S. Senator, on a list of 5,200 from an internet sting operation overlooked the first time around 4 years ago. Only now are they supposedly getting a second look, and only after pressure from investigative reporters and the U.S. Senator you're about to hear from, Republican Charles Grassley. The Pentagon porn story began in 2006. An Immigration and Customs Enforcement child pornography sting operation called Project Flicker produced payment records of about 5,200 people, many of whom provided Army or fleet zip codes or military email addresses. Subsequently, the Pentagon's investigative branch, DCIS, began going through the ICE list to identify who actually was a DoD employee or a contractor. The investigation, however, only ran for 8 months and only cross-checked some 3,500 names for Pentagon ties, according to a senator. According to DCIS documents revealed in a Freedom of Information Act request, out of that 3,500, investigators uncovered 264 employees or contractors, including staffers for the Secretary of Defense and contractors at the NSA. 9 people had top security clearances. But only about 20% of those 264 people were completely investigated. Fewer still were prosecuted, and after about 8 months, the entire probe was halted. It left about 1,700 names totally unchecked, 1,700 alleged kiddie porn customers, an unknown number of whom may still work in some capacity for the Defense Department. But Senator Grassley says he is still not getting the cooperation he needs from the Pentagon. I spoke to him earlier.
They had amazing things on the news, ABC, all of them back in probably the 1990s, a little earlier than that, and then they slowly started to get corrupt, and now they're at the point where it's basically little to no truth. We're also used to trusting them, and we're too busy to really get our head off the desk and look around. 1975, this memorandum popped up, and again, you can go and see all of these links and articles at thedisclosurehub.com/mockingbird. It states that the CIA had men in the news agency and they didn't know who they were, and they also said that they stopped, but we all know they don't really stop when they say they do. 1976, the Church Committee of Senators, it's a group of senators, looked into the CIA and actually raided them. They found dart guns with snake venom darts and toxic fish darts. Through this Senator Committee hearing, the CIA finally formally admitted out of their mouth that they had people in the news agency, and they actually didn't admit too much publicly, but they admitted enough. We have the documentation now because it's all been declassified.
We all know that you can't believe everything you read, but an eyewitness account is not always possible, particularly in nasty wars on the other side of the world. And so reporters sometimes have to rely on other people's accounts. The story then becomes as good as its source, and sources sometimes lie. The U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, deals in information and misinformation. Tonight we see how the CIA has been able to plant news reports that aren't just inaccurate, but totally fabricated.
The usual thing. The charge makes the headlines, the retraction makes the inside pages. 8 or 10 days later, it's revealed, well, MiGs weren't on the way, but that's no longer a headline. So what one is left with is the overall impression from the screaming headlines of the week earlier that Nicaragua continues to represent this enormous danger to the security of the United States. This nation of 3 million impoverished souls, half of whom are under the age of 15, you know.
But what if all isn't as it seems? What if the reality you found was false? A carefully constructed narrative by unseen special interests designed to manipulate your opinion.
Mockingbird was manipulative enough. Today, things are far more sophisticated. There are countless whistleblowers, leaks, and investigations that make it clear what passes for mainstream journalism today is little more than the propaganda machine for the national security state. We'll be coming back to that sad reality later in the program. And then there are black psyops. Now things get really interesting. Back in 1954, the CIA defined black psyops as something perpetrated that appeared to emanate from a source hostile in nature. The U.S. government would deny any connection. The policy statement went on to say that, quote, the content may be partially or completely fabricated, but that which is fabricated is made to appear credible. That, my friends, is a false flag.
A Truman Show-esque alternate reality all around you.
Did you know the founder of Netflix uncle is Edward Bernays, as in the father of propaganda, who literally wrote the book Crystallizing Public Opinion? He was in charge of America's World War I propaganda and America's World War II propaganda. He's the reason there's fluoride in your drinking water. And no, these guys don't care how white your precious smile is. Oh, and his uncle? Sigmund Freud. So if you thought there was something off about this, remember to trust your instincts.
Throughout the 1990s, the CIA worked with Hollywood very specifically on movies that portrayed the CIA as sort of a heroic force protecting America.
The Department of Defense is actually a much more powerful player in the entertainment industry.
Complacency in the news media combined with incredibly powerful propaganda and publicity forces mean we sometimes get little of the truth. Special interests have unlimited time and money to figure out new ways to spin us while cloaking their role. It's a perversion of grassroots, as in fake grassroots. It's when political, corporate, or other special interests disguise themselves to try to fool you into thinking an independent or grassroots movement, try to give the impression there's widespread support for or against an agenda when there's not, seeks to manipulate you into changing your opinion by making you feel as if you're an outlier when you're not.
Hi. Hi.
Nice to see you. Can't go off and CNN.
You don't have a mask on anymore. What's going
we're
on?
outside. Do you have a minute to
well,
chat?
we're 6 feet apart.
Do you have a minute to chat?
COVID, gangbusters with ratings. COVID, gangbusters with ratings, right? Which is why we constantly have a death toll on the side. Let's make it higher. Like, why isn't it high enough, today? Like, it would make our point better if it was higher. It's fear. Like, fear really drives numbers. Fear is the thing that keeps you tuned in.
In 1975, a US senator by the name of Frank Church set up a committee forever known as the Church Committee. CIA Director William Colby was called in for a hearing.
I thought that it was a matter of real concern that planted stories intended to serve a national purpose abroad came home and were circulated here and believed here, because this would mean that the CIA could manipulate the news in the United States by channeling it through some foreign country. Now, we're looking at that very carefully.
Do you have any people being paid by the CIA who are contributing to a major circulation American journal?
We do have people who submit pieces to American journals.
Do you have any people paid by the CIA who are working for television networks?
This, I think, gets into the kind of getting into the details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into in executive session.
At CBS, we had been contacted by the CIA. As a matter of fact, by the time I became the head of the whole news and public affairs operation in 1954, the ships had been established, and I was told about them and asked if I'd carry on with them.
In consumer news, economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of
College, it's an honor meeting you. But I have a very important question. I really hope you can answer this. I mean, former CIA Director William Colby in 1976 said the CIA controls and owns everybody in major significance in the mainstream media. How do you think that relates in 2011?
Bill Colby said that?
Yeah. He's on record stating that as a fact. Saying the Central Intelligence
Agency... Since he drowned shortly after that, it's hard to talk to him about it, but
of course,
I had never heard that Bill said something like that. He's a very sensible guy. It's certainly not true. There's got to be some kind of misunderstanding.
Do you have a comment on Operation Mockingbird, possibly?
What?
Operation Mockingbird?
What's Mockingbird?
It's a CIA operation that infiltrates mainstream media and tries to control that. It's declassified.
As you describe it, I don't see it. As you describe it, I don't think it
Whenever you get a chance, just look up Operation Mockingbird. It's declassified government documents.
Through process of elimination, through blackmail and other techniques, bad guys have fully taken over most agencies of the U.S. military. That's the Department of Defense, Homeland Security, NSA. Is there good guys? Yes, there has to still be good guys in there.
A dozen CIA employees have been involved in alleged sex crimes against children as young as 2 years old.
More than 3,600 pages of deeply disturbing material, 75 of them ever more so. The part of the trove logging sex crimes against children committed by at least 10 CIA employees and contractors, in the worst of cases against very young children.
Had inappropriate sexual activity with an unidentified 2-year-old girl. Admitted to having inappropriate sexual contact with the then 6-year-old girl on 2 separate occasions.
This individual, whose identity was cloaked by a code name along with everybody else, was fired but never charged, according to the papers. Another CIA employee was caught with thousands of inappropriate images of children on his work laptop.
Allegedly solicited an undercover special agent from the FBI in an online chat room in an attempt to travel interstate for the purposes of having sex with what he believed to be an underage child. The case is being closed.
The agency terminated the contract with the individual, and again, apparently no further action was taken.
That as a parent and as a patriot, I'm absolutely outraged by what we're allowing to happen to our children. These children are not just kidnapped and in some cases bred by families as a cash crop. We have people in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them. And when they are sold, they come without birth certificates, which means it's easier to kill them and have no one ask where they are. We're also importing children by the plane load. Again, children who have no documentation. It's not just child slavery or child sex abuse, it's also child torture, because you have adrenalized blood. You have the whole blood drinking ceremony of the satanic world. It's also the use of children for harvesting body organs. But I know the system. I've been a spy all over the world. I have created the Marine Corps Intelligence Command. I have trained intelligence and law enforcement representatives, over 8,000 of them from across 66 countries. They're all, without exception, good people trapped in a bad system. And one of the most wonderful things that this court could achieve, now that we've had Pizzagate, for example, which opened people's mind, is we could achieve an opening of the public mind.
These guys that are pulling the strings in most of the world and the United States have a high hand in Hollywood, and that's why a lot of the movies have a lot of true stuff in them, and it's like, wow, that's true, but that was in a movie, it's not supposed to be. That weird, eerie feeling is because you know deep down inside, all you have to do is really think about it, watch movies differently now, and you'll understand that they're putting stuff in the movies so that way you think it's fake. The CIA actually coined the term conspiracy theorist to turn off anybody to thinking. When you follow the money, this whole thing is basically one big conspiracy at the top of the money to take over and control us all to the point where we have zero say. I've taken up enough of your time. If you want to know more information, go to vtvault.org/justthetip. Watch those 2 series. It's all raw information. No one's talking. It's amazing. Watch it and you'll see deeper as to what I'm talking about. It is satanic. There's lots of topics and lots of links that I left throughout this whole video, so please rewatch it a few times. Take a pen and a piece of paper, write it down, follow up on each category. See that this is all true, and it'll help you understand the big picture behind the scenes that the news and the media just will not allow it to go through that wall. They don't want you to know this, and now hopefully I've explained it in a clear picture, providing enough evidence that you can see for yourself that it's worth taking your time to look up and understanding what they're really doing to us. It's all love, and I'm here to wake up the world. If you want more from us, check out thedisclosurehub.com, and if you want to support videos like this, check out our shop. It'll actually change your life and could heal some of your vaccine damages. I know that sounds nuts, but it's true. Check it out, vtvault.org/shop.